Right. I think we're live. Hello, Base Pause. Hi, everybody. It's so great to be back. It's been a minute. So I'm super excited to be here today. And I think that this topic is on feline fire. And it may have something to do with my amazing co-host today, Dr. Mikel Getter. See, I just did it. Getter. Who's Getter?
I don't know.
Dr. Mikel Delgado, meaning cat, right?
It doesn't actually mean cat.
It doesn't?
We'll let everybody believe it means cats.
I don't know that I can go on now.
I'm sorry. We'll pretend. We'll pretend it means cats, yes.
But you know what? I actually would love if you would just give us, you're like a party of one. There's pretty much only one person in the world doing what you're doing. So can you explain, because I'm a veterinarian and I focus on cats and I love cat behavior. And so that's kind of like, yeah, I get it, but explain what you do.
Sure. Hey, everybody, I am Mikel Delgado. This is my cat, Professor Scribbles. She loves Zoom. So yeah, I've been working with cats for almost 22 years now. I got my start in an animal shelter and then basically started my consulting business. So really I focus on helping people solve behavior problems with their cats, have a better relationship with their cats, help people understand cats. People seem to have a hard time with that.
And talk to me about your education, right? Because this just isn't like what you think or how you feel.
No. So yeah, after I was working in the shelter, I knew I wanted to learn about behavior in a more formal way. So I got a PhD in animal cognition and behavior from UC Berkeley, and then worked as a postdoc researcher at the School of Veterinary Medicine at UC Davis for 3.5 years.
Okay. So like sometimes I think the internet makes us all created equal. And I just want to highlight your education and how much that you have done to be able to be a credible source of advice.
Thank you.
So without further ado, today we're going to be talking about enrichment, which is my absolute favorite topic. Is it yours?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe poop is a number two.
Poop's a good one. We should just all have a whole poop day. But until then, we're going to be talking about enrichment. And before we even start talking about the topic, I really am kind of obsessed with words and how we name things.
Yeah.
And this subject got named enrichment like 20 years ago when the whole notion of it was brand new. So we had this understanding, that's about the time I was graduating from vet school. Yeah. And we had this understanding that a home was awesome for a cat. So if you wanted to be like an A+ pet owner, then you could do some extra stuff.
Yes.
And after studying this on so many levels for the past 20+ years, that's really not the case. Oh,
I'm sorry.
Sir, he would like to tell us about it.
He
would like to tell us about it. So yeah. Can you explain why creating the appropriate environment for a cat is baseline, not enrichment?
Yeah, and I'm going to share my screen, so hopefully folks can see more than just my cat. But yeah, so Dr. Bales and I, kind of threw together a short PowerPoint to just be a guide for our conversation today. This is definitely a conversation, I'd say. And you brought up a really important point, which is this idea of the term environmental enrichment. And it really came from this idea of enhancing animal environments for animals that were captive, right? So zoo animals, laboratory animals, and a lot of times it was approached as like, just throw some stuff in their den and hope they play with it. And it wasn't really focused on the needs of that individual animal or that species. And during the past, many decades of looking at captive animals, and, to an extent, I would say cats are somewhat captives. We control a lot of aspects of their lives.
It's not mean to say that.
No, it's just real.
I think it's important that we own it.
Yeah, I do too.
And say, okay, this is what's happening. Yeah. So how do we do it well?
Yes. And so increasingly the idea has been about not just adding stuff to the environment, but making it species specific, animal specific. So we're trying to give animals a sense of control and choice in their environment, give them things that make sense for them to be doing. So species typical behaviors, So for cats, you could imagine it would be like hunting behaviors, climbing behaviors, scratching, those kinds of things. And really, I think the main question is, should we call it environmental enrichment? And there's been a movement also to change that to environmental needs, because enrichment makes it sound like it's extra. We give our cats food, we give them water, we give them a litter box, we give them veterinary care. And those are the basic needs, right? And that's it. And then everything else is kind of a bonus. And so I think now we have to recognize that making sure our cats are emotionally healthy is just as important as making sure they're physically healthy.
And I actually like to call this minimum behavioral needs.
I love it.
And the thing that, I'm always working on my words, that the only thing that doesn't convey is that when your behavioral needs are not met for a really long period of time, it actually becomes not just behavior problems,
sure,
physical problems.
Yeah.
So the connection between inappropriate and kind of starved environment causing urinary disease, viral disease it doesn't cause the virus, but it makes the virus come out more.
Sure.
Actually, dental disease, basically anywhere in your body with a mucous membrane and also your skin it becomes affected by this stress, the stress hormones that are just nonstop. So we also got to recognize we're causing not just behavior problems, but illness.
Yes.
And I'm waiting for the new data to come out, and I don't know if you can update me here, but up until 2020, the number one cause of death for cats was not anything that anyone is talking about. The number one cause of death for cats is euthanasia. And the number one cause of euthanasia is being surrendered to a shelter. And I submit that that is always for a behavior problem. Because if you have an awesome relationship with your cat, you're going to figure out how to make your allergies work. You're going to figure out how to find an apartment where you can keep them. I think that behavior, it's behavior that's killing our cats. And we actually know how to fix it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I would say, from working in a shelter, I don't want to downplay the difficulties that a lot of people with pets have financially. Certainly with the pandemic, people have lost their jobs. We have a lot of people who have been waiting for support from the government. So I really, I do think that a lot of animals do end up in the shelter of no fault of their own. I'm not talking about someone who just doesn't have a bond with their cat and they decide they have allergies or whatever. I mean, I agree with you that from a behavioral perspective, a lot of things that get called allergies or no time, new baby, there's often a behavior issue underlying that for sure. So when I worked in the shelter, if we saw someone surrendered a cat for new baby, it was almost always, there's a new baby, the cat's stressed out, and now they're peeing on the owner's bed. So, we would always try to, contact the former owner and get more information. But there is I would say we have a widespread issue with people not either being able or understanding how to meet their cat's emotional needs. And 100% agree with you that chronic stress is going to cause physical ramifications. Things that are systemic, things that are organ specific, things that, people, he's healthy, but the behavior is the sign of a problem, right? So,
and the thing that's super exciting, we were talking about right before we went live, that we have been talking about these same problems for 20 years, but today we've got people from Argentina and Florida and Minnesota, South Korea,
oh my God,
New York, Georgia, Wisconsin, Buffalo. I mean, it goes on and on and on, and not just nationally, but globally. And so I'm so excited to be able to give all of these amazing people this information. And I'm going to make sure that we have some handouts at the end also. Oh, hi, New Zealand. How are you doing?
I mean, that's the upside of the pandemic, right? Is that we've moved a lot of this education online and we can reach people all over the world, so many more people. So I'm so excited.
These ideas, and not just ideas, these facts and the solutions for how to manage them, I'm counting on you guys all across the globe to help us so that new cat people aren't hearing this information when it's too late or way far down the line when there's serious problems. So let's talk about it. What do we got?
Yeah. So, I think we really have to understand, like, why do we care about meeting cats' needs? Like, what are some of the ramifications? We talked a little bit about this, but I think the most important thing is really understanding the cat's kind of evolutionary and domestication history and how they came to live with humans, right? It's a little bit different than dogs in that they are much more similar, both physically and behaviorally, to their nearest relatives, their nearest wild relatives. And in that case, I mean, we can't say cats aren't domesticated. They're definitely domesticated. There have been changes to their behavior. There's been changes to their genetics that have made them a better companion than the Eastern European wildcats or the African wildcats. They're not primed for socialization like the domestic cat is. At the same time, though, we know that cats, again, still have hunting instincts. They still have instincts about how they eliminate, how they mark their territory, how they use their territory, how they coexist with other cats. And we have to really keep that in mind when we're housing cats. We have to provide them with things that allow them to engage in some of those natural behaviors. If we're not going to let them run free, and I don't think people should let their pets run free. I think there's a lot of dangers to letting cats roam. And I think there's a lot of responsibility we have both to other humans in our neighborhoods, but also to wild animals and other animals like other cats in our neighborhood to keep our cats indoors. But that comes with a great responsibility. We have to make sure that environment makes them happy, helps prevent stress, boredom, and especially conflict if you're going to have multiple cats. That's a big issue that we see is cats not coexisting peacefully together. In fact, some of the questions we got ahead of time were reflecting on stress and conflict between cats living together. Yep. So we have to kind of think about these things when we're bringing cats into our homes.
Yeah. So let's jump right in. For people who can't wrap their brain around it, which I don't blame people, like we're people. And so we see our world and we assume that just works for everybody. Yeah. But I like to just quickly use my example of if the world was taken over by giant robin redbreasts and they euthanized most of us because we're such a nuisance, but they kept some of us as companions, and the lucky among us have to live in a 40-foot wide bird's nest.
That's kind of cozy.
200 feet off the ground with no furniture, no human companionship.
No Netflix,
no chocolate.
Oh.
No, and so I'm going to say this is me now. So I'm in the nest. When I have to go to the bathroom, I don't get a toilet. I have to hang my nether regions over the side of the nest. And I am starting to get so anxious about this whole thing and like doing that I am getting a stomach ache and maybe things aren't working the way they should. And so if I have diarrhea and I can't get over the side of the nest, she freaks out at me. And then I get even more nervous and I have to pee all the time because that's what happens to me when I get nervous. And then she's going to feed me like I'm her baby because she loves me. And that's how you take care of someone that you love. And that food is going to be nutritionally appropriate for me, right? That's going to be
a worm.
but nutritionally, a worm's probably pretty good protein, right? So worms, seeds, nuts, berries, that kind of stuff. But how do I get fed? Because a mother bird will regurgitate food into her baby's mouth. This is for robins, up to 100 times a day. So when you start to think about it, living in another species world as their beloved, there's some problems.
There's definitely some problems there. I like to think about cats' needs using this model that several cat experts put together a few years ago called the 5 Pillars of a Healthy Feline Environment, because I think it's a really great, just kind of basic, like, what do you need to think about? Like, what are your cat's needs? Certainly you touched upon a few things like what are their sensory experiences? We tend to assume that cats experience the world exactly like we do, and that is not the case. Their vision's very different, their hearing's very different, their ability to sense things with their whiskers is something novel to us. And of course, their sense of smell is much better than ours. And so the 5 pillars are really about providing a great environment for your cat, including things like safe spaces, whether that's the top of a cat tree, or a cardboard box with a towel in it, or a cat carrier that's set up as a cozy space, or a covered bed, whatever your cat likes. And perhaps one of the most important things, especially when you have multiple cats, but even if you have just one cat, is that you have multiple and separated resources in the home. You want to have as many litter boxes, food bowls, water dishes as you have cats plus one. So you're giving them choices. It's really about not forcing cats to share. It's not that they don't necessarily want to share, but maybe they don't want to share. And so you have to give them that choice.
For me, like understanding why that is super important. So cats are solitary survivors, right?
Yeah.
So whereas you and I are humans, we're communal animals. So in one way or another, we count on each other to survive.
Yeah.
We eat together. We may sleep either together or in the same space. Mm-hmm. Everything about us is community. Not so for a cat. For a cat, they only live in community when, number one, there's ample resources.
Yep.
And number two, in the wild, it's almost always related mothers and their kittens until they're of reproduction age, and then the boys get tossed. So, and they'll only do that if there's enough food and enough safe spaces, right?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
It is not their nature to live together.
That is correct. And, you know, so I like to think of cat social behavior as on a spectrum. So you've got kind of hypersocial cats on one end, completely antisocial cats on the other end. And then most cats are going to be somewhere in between, where it depends. It depends on how you have the environment set up. It depends on how much stress there is. It depends on when the cats met and how they were introduced. But, you know, I think we do tend to see things from a very human perspective, whereas we might put all of the food dishes in one area, or even make the cats eat from one food dish rather than give them their own space to eat. And like you mentioned, we're very social. If I came over to your house for dinner and I took my plate and sat in the other room, you'd think I was strange. You know, that would be rude. And for our cats, you know, they hunt a mouse or a very small bird several times a day. They do not take it inside and share it with other cats, even, you know, unless they're a mom training their kittens to learn how to hunt. They are not sharing that. They're not taking down a caribou together and enjoying it at the same time. So we really have to respect that. For cats, eating is not a social event. Going to the bathroom is not a social event. Even scratching or sleeping may or may not be a social event. And some of you may be saying, well, my cats like to sleep together, or they like to eat together. And that's great. Those are some signs that your cats like each other, but you always want them to have the choice. If they choose to eat from the same bowl, even though you gave them bowls 6 feet apart or in separate rooms, then, you know, well, maybe you have to make sure that one cat isn't eating all the other cat's food, but you know that they have the choice to not do that if they want to. Because when you force cats to do things in proximity when they don't really get along that well, you're increasing that chance of stress, increasing that chance of eating problems, scarf and barf. We'll talk more about that, I'm sure.
One of the ways I'd like to help people think about this is whatever room you're in now, I see behind you is a window. I'm guessing there's a door in your room, yes. Right? So you're not using them right now, right? But subconsciously, everyone who's watching knows where the exits are to their room, even if they're not using them. Now, let's say you close your eyes and open them again, and I have filled all of that in with brick walls. So really nothing's changed, right? Because you weren't using it.
Sure.
But you need
now I'm panicking
to know it's there, right?
Yes.
So for cats, they need to know that the individual resource that keeps them safe is there, even if they're not using it. Absolutely. So having those multiple and separated 5 cats, 6 perches in this room where if the 6 cats spend time together, all 6 need a place high up to be. Yeah. All 6 need a safe place to go to the bathroom, and all 6 need, or I had 5, now I'm saying 6, 5, 6 places.
It happens. You start with 2, and then you end up with 10.
Right. To eat. Right. So it's just a way of thinking about it to help you see the world like a cat.
Yeah. And the other thing that people don't think about is sometimes you're like, well, maybe we should judge the importance of a resource by how much time they spend using it. Right. And if you think about the bathroom, most of us don't spend a lot of time in the bathroom, but we'd be really bummed if we didn't have one. So, that's not necessarily the way that you kind of rank what's important to your cats. And
the other thing that I think really helps people give context to this is for all those reasons that we talked about. Cats are also conflict avoiders. They don't want to have to get into it.
Yeah.
They don't want to have to be forced to use the same space or resource. And they prefer to give those messages without being there. So if you and I are cats and you're in my house and I'm feeling really anxious about this doorway because that's how I get to the food in the litter box, and you and I aren't getting along, I might mark the doorway with my pee or by scratching it to say to you, hey, that's mine. Don't fight me. Like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
And so if I leave everything the way it is, now, if the owner, my owner, our owner leaves everything the way it is, only keeps cleaning up my marking, explain to me what that means for the cats.
Well, the cats are having less of a sense of self and ownership of that space, right? And that's another example of how cats do, well, one, how they have a very different kind of sensory world than we do, but two, how some of these behaviors are just natural behaviors and we don't always like them. You know, urine marking is a natural feline behavior. We are lucky in that when we spay and neuter our cats, it greatly reduces the chance that they will do them because they're partly under hormonal control, but that's not the only thing controlling them. We know that it's highly related to territorial anxiety and stress. So yeah, we want to give our cats ways to mark that are acceptable to us, like rubbing their cheeks on things, scratching things, getting their scent on those doorways, by rubbing their cheeks on them, or by providing scratching options there. And yeah, we don't want to erase their presence.
And if you're seeing the marking, of course, for hygiene reasons, you might want to clean it up, but it's also your cue that there's something about that area that's causing a conflict between your cats.
Yes.
And can you provide resources in an additional way?
Yeah.
Cleaning up the scent of the pee, they're not peeing because someone else peed there. Yeah. Right. So to fix the problems, you got to think like a cat.
Yeah. Agreed. So to go through we spent a good amount of time. I think multiple and separated resources is one of the most, it's a very important pillar. So it's good to spend a lot of time on that. Of course, outlets for play and predatory behaviors. I think we both love this one for various reasons, but our cats are natural hunters and they don't get a lot of opportunities to hunt inside if we don't provide them with those opportunities, whether it's through foraging enrichment that stimulates hunting behavior, like maybe Doc and Phoebe's feeders, hunter feeder, and then also, interactive play with wand toys where we move the toy. You can certainly provide your cat with a lot of toys they can play with on their own, but that is not going to really be the same experience for them as when you use a wand type toy where you're moving it and they can play with it.
So I think this, separating these out really helps my thinking, because in nature, cats hunt, catch, and play with multiple small meals a day, yes, somewhere between 8, 12, something like that, depending on how lucky they are and the availability of prey. So the natural feeding behavior of a cat is not to eat from a bowl. The natural feeding behavior is to spend time seeking out the food, yes, then having an interaction with it, and then eating. So that's what Doc and Phoebe's feeders are. I invented it, so shameless. But there's nothing else on the market to hunt, catch, play with multiple small meals a day. A lot of the products for cats on the market are shrunken down dog products, sure, and they don't work. They're not built for a cat. So that's why I started building things for cats. So then in addition to that hunt, catch, play, multiple small meals a day, you also can give them more food enrichment hunting by puzzle feeders and other toys and that kind of thing. But then play, to me, is different than feeding. Sure. So in play, we want to recreate the hunting experience by stimulating those sensory things for our cats. So we got a bunch of questions about this. My cat won't play. My cat doesn't know how to play. My older cat isn't playing, which could be a different answer for that one.
Sure.
But talk to me about how to play with a cat.
Yeah, and shameless plug on my end, I'm actually writing a book about cat play right now that's going to come out in 2023. So look out for that.
I will need that. We need that book.
We do need that book. Yeah, I was.
It's also like human being. We play by going at each other, throwing a ball to each other.
Yeah.
And how do cats play?
So with cat play, we're really treating it as we would treat, kind of giving them natural outlets for predatory behavior. So again, getting back to that species specific behaviors and giving them opportunities for that. We know that cats spend a lot of time stalking. There are also certain things that kind of pique their interest as far as hunting is concerned, like crevices and holes in the wall or holes in a box, crinkling, rustling sounds that might be akin to a mouse hiding in some leaves outdoors, right? So these are things that naturally trigger cats to say like, is there a mouse? Is there a bird? Like they hear fluttering, right? And they're like, oh, there's a bird somewhere. So we want to make sure that we're appealing to all of their senses that they would use in hunting. So it's their sight, sound, hearing, and, especially their sense of touch. Like we can't really relate to how their whiskers work, but they have all these incredible whiskers on their faces and their paws that help them with the hunting process. They detect both air movement and pressure. So if they're grasping a toy or a mouse, they're going to be able to tell if the toy or mouse is wiggling, right? And some of that is directed by those whiskers that they have. If you check your cats, they've got whiskers on the back of their legs. And if they've got the mouse close to their face, they actually can't see it very well. And so we often think cats see like we do. They like to detect motion from several feet away, but once they actually have the toy or prey in their paws, I almost said hands, they can't see it. They don't have the greatest close-up vision. Like if you're holding your cat, you're fuzzy. But what they can do is detect how much it's moving in their mouth through the nerves they have in their teeth and their whisker pads that are, the whiskers are touching the prey.
Before they catch it, mice don't run at a cat. Mm-hmm. And a bird doesn't fly towards the cat.
Excellent.
So
points.
the thing that is counterintuitive to people is you want to start with the object, the prey, close to them and use those skittering movements away from them to stimulate their hunting behavior.
So their eyes are sensitive to motion along the horizontal plane. So that's a good place to start. And really, my whole hope in writing this book is to encourage people to become scientists and collect data and experiment with different toys, different movements, and see what piques their cat's interest. I think people give up very easily, or they don't even know what different things to try. They just kind of wave the toy around and hope that they get the response they want.
And shameless plug, I'm actually working on inventing more cat play devices that are interactive with humans, where you don't necessarily have to understand all the science that we're talking about. Just do it. Do it. So if you're gonna play with your cat, I also think it's very important for people to understand that hunt, catch, play, eat, and that the meal is what makes a cat feel relaxed at the end. So I always recommend that you let the cat, when you're done, and cats are sprinters. So this could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Don't think you're going to play for an hour.
You don't have to play for an hour. No. In fact, if you think about how they hunt, right? 8 to 10 short bursts of energy a day. So they're not naturally dogs will chase prey down until the prey gets tired, right? So they're running to overtake the prey, but that's not how cats hunt. They sneak up.
The dog's catching a big meal once.
And so the cats are going to, the first thing is prey detection. So they are, again, interest piqued by a sound or movement.
Or smell.
And then they're going to kind of suss out, how can I sneak up on this thing without them detecting me? So that's where, a lot of the mental part of prey is the stalking and the sneaking up on the toy or the animal.
This is a great point, because someone put in, how do I feed my cat multiple meals a day if I'm not home?
Right.
Hide them. And let your cat spend the day using that instinct to, and in this case, it's almost always just smell. To find the many small meals. Really, the less you can put in each feeder and have more, if you could leave 10 of them with 4 pieces of kibble each. That would be way better for your cat than a giant bowl.
Absolutely. And there's a friend of mine, Hannah, has an excellent course on nose work for cats. So if you've heard of nose work for dogs, which is using the sense of smell to detect snacks, basically. So noseworkcats.com is a great website for resources on using cat sense of smell to inspire their seeking behavior, and which ultimately leads to exactly what you're saying, like using multiple small feeders in different locations is exactly what that is a perfect example of.
I'm going to say, like, I'm obsessed with this topic. I'm sorry. Someone's going to have to like give me that hook, like from the Gong Show, but hunting feeders are the only way to meet all of those needs. Timed feeders have a place in that. They can release a small amount of food at a time, but they do nothing for that hunt, catch, play. They only do the eat. And so when I'm talking with people who are using timed feeders, my question is, please tell me where your cat is between an hour and a half an hour before the scheduled timer. Almost all of them are like this, staring at the feeder, right? So you actually are facilitating food obsession, in my opinion, in a healthier way because it's a portion.
Yeah.
But you're not giving them all of the behavioral things that they need.
Yeah. I mean, I would, I always kind of treat things as like a personalized plan for a client I'm working with. So certainly there is a place for feeders that are automated. There's a lot of room for food puzzles that, I always try to accommodate both the owner's needs, but the cat's needs. And I also think there's multiple ways to meet that full cycle, right? So, but I mean, that said, I love your products. I use them myself.
You hand make them. You can hand make them, or
of course,
if it doesn't have to be a gift of mine. And someone just said they're too easy. You haven't seen the new ones. The slider on the top.
Yeah, I have that one.
You can make the hole really small.
Yeah. And I agree. Like, so you do have to kind of tailor it to the issues and So I think, I do try to not say like all cats should do X, Y, or Z, even with play. I mean, some cats, older cats are going to play very differently from young cats, and it is, again, like trying to experiment and find out what your cat responds to. I agree with you completely about like, there's nothing better after an exercise session than a snack or a meal. And that can be very helpful in like preventing cats from waking up in the middle of the night. I think we hear from a lot of people whose cats wake them up throughout the night, either for food or attention. And so I'm always big on trying to get cats on the human schedule for sleeping as much as possible, because sleep is precious for us. Cats can sleep all day tomorrow, so they don't care if they're waking you up at 4 a.m, but we'd much rather that they didn't. So there's lots of ways we can use, this quote unquote enrichment or essentials to help them be better housemates. That is part of the puzzle, and part of what maintains the bond is that we can live with their behaviors. And so it's, I don't want to make it sound like there's no challenges with living with cats, but
sure. Holly's just saying she wishes there was more wet feeders, and I just want to say I make a wet feeder. I also make something called the puzzle feeder, which is it's not hunting, but it's wells that it looks like a puzzle with little slots, and you put the food or the or like a churro or whatever treat in there, and the cat has to put their foot in it and lick their paw. So I know that there's others too. What other wet puzzles do you like?
Yeah, the ones that I find work best are like some of the Nina Ottison ones where they have to slide compartments. And I believe Trixie also has a few, like the domino, I think it's called, where they can slide compartments around. So there are options. I love the slow feeder bowls and the licky mats, and your little mouse licker toy is great. And the other thing I was going to add about automated feeders is I have had clients who had them dump into a slow feeder bowl. So at least they were adding a little bit of challenge. So if you can have the automated feeder over like a tray style puzzle, and then the cat has to still work for the food, even though it's not quite in the same way. I mean, I agree with you that the hiding of the puzzles around the house is a really great way to get your cat moving, using their territory. It can be a confidence booster for a cat who's maybe not using all of their territory. So there's lots of benefits to that.
And there's lots of ways to succeed, and anything's better than the bowl. That's what I say. Like we find something to recreate that hunting for your cat in meals and in play.
Yes. And there's other benefits too, right? Like slowing down their feeding. So it may be that we're using them for other purposes, like preventing scarf and barf, or just taking up time in the cat's day. So for people who are like working from home and they really need their cat to like leave them alone for, 45 minutes here and there. Any type of a puzzle feeder can help with that. So I think there's other reasons to use them for sure.
Yeah. And I think we've had a comment here about someone whose cats are experiencing pretty severe aggression at mealtime. Okay. So when you take the pressure away from the bowl and one feeding station, then that's going to get a lot better. Yeah. So at least bowls in separate locations. Yeah. And then maybe if you're already having that heightened trouble at your house, adding instead of taking away is probably best. So add more food resources, more food bowls, and you can add puzzles, because the cat that is either one, really, the one that's asserting aggression or the one that's getting beat up on, they're going to be able to deal with their stress better if they have that hunting outlet and not just, so it's multifactorial, right? It's the no shared feeding station. So, or options, right? For a part and meet their hunting needs. Absolutely.
Yes. And I'm also, I think in some cases, I'm a big fan of the microchip feeders by SureFeed as a strategy for keeping cats, especially if you have to monitor how much they're eating, or you have cats on a prescription or therapeutic diet.
They also have the SureFlap door that's microchip activated.
Oh yeah, yep.
And so if you're up to it, you can use that and then use different rooms in the house for hunting or whatever you're going to do. And then they will have the chip, and then each cat can only get into their room.
And we don't talk about this a lot, but that can also be helpful if you have dogs, right? Because you might have to have the cat food puzzles in a separate room. So, but then the cat can come and go freely. So there's definitely, I love technology. I'm always fascinated by how we can use it to have a better relationship. I'm not really into technology as a substitute for care. So I'm not really into the leave your pet for 3 days and just have something dump food at them, 3 times a day. That to me is that's not pet tech, that's pet neglect. So I think we can have fun with technology, and there are some ways that we can use it, like with the microchip, controlling access to certain areas of the house for resources, but we have to use it carefully.
Yeah.
So the last 2 pillars, healthy social interactions, that touches on some of the things we talked about, both with, social interactions with other animals in the home. Well, we're animals too. So with other companion animals in the home, right? We want to make sure the cats get along with the cats get along with the dogs, or whoever else you have living with you. And then, how do the humans interact with the cat in the home? Is everybody consistent in their interactions? Does the cat have good feelings about people in the home?
Explain what that means. So I love Tabitha Kucera's way of explaining this about politeness. Mm-hmm. And what's polite to a person and polite to a cat are different.
Sure. Yes.
So people always say, I hate cats, but they always love me. And that's because the person who doesn't want to be with the cat is actually behaving polite and appropriate for the cat. Right. And then it's like, what? Because if you love cats, you go, oh, the cat. And you go, right, and you want to pet them and hold them. Yeah. And for a cat, that is really scary and aggressive.
So it comes back to the concepts of consent and choice, right? So a lot of times we're not giving cats any say in the matter, right? We're picking them up and carrying them to a different room. Like, how would you feel if someone did that to you?
So explain what a polite introduction. If you came over to my house, I have 2 cats. What would you do if you really wanted to interact with them?
Well, I'd sit on your couch and just chat with you, and see if your cats were interested in coming up to me. I might get on their level and extend a hand or a finger. This is kind of how cats greet one another, right? With their nose touch. So we can kind of mimic that with a finger. Maybe I'd try to bribe them with treats, but the thing I would not do is go and immediately try to pet them or pick them up, which is instinctive for a lot of people who, I think when we love cats, we want to prove to ourselves and others that cats also love us, right? And and so there's this instinct to be like, step aside, I'm going to show you how much the cat loves me, and then do exactly what we don't want you to do, which is go and get in the cat's face. Cats are naturally cautious. They kind of have a, need a little time. And actually there's been research on this that showed when people interacted with cats, if they went into the room and started petting the cat, then the cat spent less time with them, and it was a less positive interaction than if they went in the room and just sat down and let the cat come to them. So the moral of the story is, science says, sit down, Let the cat come to you if they want to. Do not force interactions.
If anything, think about luring, not catching.
Yeah.
So if like you really can't resist, get that cat's favorite wand toy.
Yeah.
And try to play with it and draw it out from hiding. But even then when it's out, then still not this, right? Then it's still like, sit down and let it come to you.
I mean, a cat who is very social with people will probably come check you out pretty quickly and sniff you. And again, you don't want to just immediately stick your hand in their face. And we also know from research that, there's certain areas of the body that cats are more prone to being accepting of touch than others. And so cats are usually neck up is a relatively safe area for most cats. Everything else is kind of depends on the cat. And so if it's a cat you don't know very well, even if they're coming up to you and seem interested in petting, really focus on the cheeks. Again, kind of offering your hand and letting them pet themselves on your hand rather than you actively petting them. We know cats can get overstimulated or irritated from too much handling pretty quickly. So we have to respect that.
This is something I learned not that long ago, like in the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Is that to me, if I would be petting a cat the way that I thought was correct, and it would be like, everything's fine, and now they're biting me. But I learned that I actually was missing a lot of signals. It just happened really quickly.
Yep.
And so it's better to do exactly what you said with like, offer your hand, let them come to you. Yes. And you can do one pet and then put your hand back and let them say yes another.
Yep.
Or no, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. And respect that. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make as well is if their cat is afraid, okay, you have a friend come over, you really want them to meet your cat because you love your cat and your cat is the cutest, but your cat runs and hides under the bed when people come over. So a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to show him that my friend John is safe. I'm going to pull him out from under the bed and show him John. I'm going to put him on John's lap. John's now shredded by your cat who has panicked. You have not shown your cat that John is safe. You've shown your cat that when visitors come over, you will pull them out of hiding, completely ignoring their signs that they're not interested in social interaction yet. And then now, anytime the doorbell rings, they're going to run under the bed before the person even comes inside. So we have to be really careful. And it's, people don't do this because they want to terrify their cat. They really think like there's some way that they can communicate to their cat, look, I trust John, you should trust John too, but that's not how it works. So you do have to really, again, let your cat decide. And like I said, the concept of consent is very foreign to some people because we do treat our pets as if they're our property. I mean, I hate to say it, but a lot of people do not recognize that we control when they eat, whether they have a clean place to go to the bathroom, whether they get exercise, what they're doing all day, like whether or not we're going to interact with them. And so, it is something I spend a lot of time thinking about these things.
Yeah, me too. And it's been a progression because it is such a shift. And I have to say, I'm looking at the chat right now and everybody is talking about what you should or shouldn't feed your cat.
Oh,
and we're
okay.
so focused on you're a good cat parent. If you feed this, you're a bad person. If you feed that, every cat should be getting whatever, insert your food choice. But really the nutrition itself has very
little impact
to do with the health of your cat. Hey, everyone, here's the PhD and the cat veterinarian telling you that the food that you feed your cat has very little to do with their overall health.
If it's cat food and it's AAFCO, meets the AAFCO guidelines, and it makes you happy and it makes your cat happy, talk to your vet, you're good.
So what matters more than the what?
How?
It's the multiple and separated resources.
Yeah.
It's the small meals.
And you know what I'll say? I know why people get so obsessed on this. We want our cats to live forever. Yeah. And we're looking for anything that we think will help us control their health outcomes. But like you're saying, it's the environment that's going to have the biggest impact.
Marion, we got to talk, because Marion says, of course, the exception is if you have a feline urinary syndrome cat like I do. Actually, no, Marion.
The research is not a slam dunk on that one for sure.
The research is not a slam dunk on that one. That most of the cats who experience whatever we're going to call it right now, Pandora syndrome, lower urinary tract disease, this whole syndrome of things, that it's a 70% likelihood that it comes from stress, from not having their environmental needs met. There's a 3% chance, if your cat is between 1 and 10 years old, 3% or less, that is from a bacterial UTI. It's far more likely, if it's a physical problem, to be a stone, which is really different than crystals, and hydration, all these things that we're talking about. We're looking through the wrong lens. We're really looking through the wrong lens. Meeting their behavioral needs is what is going to make them most healthy. Lots of clean, fresh water from multiple sources, and whatever food you feed it in a species appropriate way. And so I want to shift the conversation around the globe. Can I be that bold?
I would love you to do that, because people come to me all the time, and I don't make nutrition recommendations except what I just said, which is feed your cat cat food. That's my nutrition recommendation, because I'm not a veterinary nutritionist, I'm not a veterinarian, but people do really latch on to this topic. And I would recommend exploring some of the writing by Linda Case and Marion Nestle. They've both written excellent books on the pet food industry, what's in pet food, what should you be doing, and how much of it is marketing to appeal to your emotional side, that if you feed your cat X, Y, and Z, they will live forever and they'll never get cancer and they'll never die. And, it's just, it's marketing. And
it's really sad. So I do sell products. So I go to trade shows. I was just at Global Pet Expo. And so it's one of two of the biggest trade shows around. And it is packed with different people selling food.
Yeah.
And they are not nutritionists at all. They're not veterinarians. They're looking to sell you cat food. And so this veterinarian wants your money. Ask a veterinarian if selling cat food or raw food or whatever food is more profitable than being a veterinarian. It's a lot more profitable. So we want to really understand the science, because it's the answers in the science, not the heartstrings. Veterinarians are not nutritionists. I just saw that. That is correct. Veterinarians are not nutritionists. We can do an extra board certified veterinary nutritionist study and pass a test. And it's a whole nother 4 years of your life. But we are trained in the basics of nutrition for every species. I can speak for it myself because those were hard tests.
Yes, I'm sure they were. We really don't want you to start talking about minerals, do we?
No.
I don't want to hear about that.
And this is the dawn of the research of our dear friend, Dr. Tony Buffington.
Yes.
Because back in the mid 80s, people thought that it was the minerals that were causing the problems. And he did the original research saying these minerals, if they're appropriate for the species, are not causing the problem. And no, vets don't get royalties from Hills. They do not. The minerals weren't causing the problem. The behavior and not meeting their behavioral needs was causing the problem.
Yeah. So I want to continue on we're almost to the last pillar, but just on healthy social interactions, I'll just, touch on a few other things that people can do. One of them is positive reinforcement training. That's a great way to have a relationship with your cat. Either you can train them to do things that will be functional for them, like go into their carrier on their own, allow you to trim their nails, learn to take pills, or you can do things like fun things that are more about bonding with them, like agility type events, or train them to do cute parlor tricks. But I think that's a really nice way for people to interact with their cat, especially if their cat is not super affectionate. That might be an alternative way to bond with your cat.
And I love target training and everything that comes after it, because even for humans, again, it's so much healthier to explain in a way that someone can understand what you want them to do.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, don't do this. Oh my gosh.
Don't go there. Get down from there.
Endless don't is super stressful.
Yeah.
What's harder for us is to understand, to say, I know you want to be up high. Here's a high place in the room that I love.
Yes.
And you're going to love it too, because I'm going to make it specially for you. Yes. I don't want you to shred the couch. So here's what I do want you to do. And instead of endless nos. We can teach them yeses.
Agreed, 100%.
And it brings the stress way down.
Brings everybody's stress way down. And it's fun. Like, if, you know, one thing, my cats, so I adopted 3 sisters during the pandemic, and they're sadly under socialized with people because we haven't really had a lot of people over during the pandemic until recently. And so, but having a few tricks under their belt has helped them be more confident. So like, they like to come out and ring their bell for company, and they don't necessarily want the company to touch them yet, but they're like, I'll show you my little tricks. I'll come out and ring my bell. And then they're like, okay, I know what to do. I have something to do. So it gives them something to do when they're feeling a little conflicted. So that's worked pretty well for me. The last pillar is respect for the nose. And, you know, what I will say is just really be thoughtful about heavy odors in your house. So I'm not a big fan of like Glade plugins next to the litter box. I'm not a fan of Glade plugins anyway, but, you know, I had a client once, her cat had licked herself basically naked, had several dermatology appointments, could not find anything medically wrong with this cat, which is unusual because most cats who have some type of alopecia or over grooming, there is an underlying medical issue. But as soon as I walked into her house, I was blasted with several types of incense and plugins. And I was like, I think I know what's going on here. This is like, I had a headache within minutes. So, you know, keep in mind, cat's sense of smell is much stronger than ours. So you want to avoid heavy scented cleaning products. Don't put heavy scents near where they eat or eliminate or sleep or play. And also respect kind of what Dr. Bales talked about earlier, which is like the marking that they do, the scratching, the rubbing. Those are all things that they can smell, even if we can't. So that's part of their world. So I like to tell people, like, don't wash everything at once. So maybe you do want to clean the sides of the doorways where they've left little marking points. Do one this week, like do the kitchen walls this week, and then do your office walls next week. So by the time you do the office walls, they've already remarked the kitchen. So there's still a little kitty smell in there. And same thing with their bedding. Don't wash all of their bedding on the same day. Rotate, toss one bed in every load of laundry, and then
I love
a fresh one.
Thinking about this from the cat's point of view, right? So,
yeah.
So they communicate by smell, like straight up. So if you give this scented anything, that it can mask their ability to communicate, and it's super overwhelming to them. Those are the don'ts. So it's super simple. Unscented everything. Number one.
Basically,
Keep it simple. Number
cat
2,
scented.
You can use that sense that their smell makes them feel safe to your advantage. So one thing that you can do is put something that they love being around, like their favorite pillow or blanket, in the carrier when it's time to travel, or get a carrier that they spend all their time in and feed them in there so that they get a positive feeling from their smell. If you bring home a new toy, remember we said cats are solitary survivors. So they're not your golden retriever who's going like, oh, if you think it's good, it must be good. That's what your dog's saying. Your cat's saying, that might kill me and no one's coming to help me. I'm not going anywhere near that. So it also smells like the store and dogs and fear and weird stuff along the way. So you can take your toy and rub it on your cat's bed, and you can even like play with it and let them rub their scent glands on it.
Yeah.
And then you've got your built-in, you know, whenever you're ready to play with this thing, you know it's safe because it smells like you. So you can use these powers for good instead of for evil.
Yay. Yes. Yeah. And, you know, we've talked about this quite a bit. And I think the one thing that I will say on this slide is like, you know, don't be reactive, be proactive, set up your cat's environment for success before they have a problem, before they have a health problem, before they have a behavior problem, before your bond is broken. I get called in to help people. People are like, yeah, the cat's been peeing on the bed for 3 years. I'm like, okay, like, we're not going to fix that overnight. So, you know, and often there are deficiencies in the environment that need to be addressed, like serious ones. So really think about like, how can I make this a happy home for my cat with the goal of preventing this whole list of problems?
Mm-hmm. Basically, almost all of the common behavior and medical problems of cats come from stress. and come
they're
from.
going to be influenced by stress either way, right? Even if it's like an organ, internally originating problem, like stress is going to have an effect.
So as much as we all feel fanatical about what we want to feed, I beg you to look into the science and give that energy to meeting cats' behavioral needs, and you're going to help change the world. You will, and you're going to help change that euthanasia rate. It matters. We're getting a lot of questions on the chat about litter. So can you talk to me quickly about what's the ultimate litter box for a cat? What's a cat spa master bath?
Yep. Multiple. So, and not side by side. So you can kind of think of it as the difference between when you go into a public restroom that has stalls versus a public restroom where there's one toilet and a locking door. Those are two very different experiences. So you want to have your litter boxes distributed throughout your home. They should be large, as in from the tip of a cat's nose to the end of their tail, at least that long. You want to fill it with typically a soft, sandy clumping litter. Some cats do have individual preferences. So if you're not sure, you can always test out a few different litters side by side and let your cat vote and tell you what kind of litter they prefer. But from research, we know they tend to like a softer, sandy type litter.
And I want to talk about why that is. It's kind of actually duh, but we don't think about it. Yeah. So I explain it as this. I want you to take off your shoes and your socks. And then I want you to go walk across a gravel driveway. I'm gonna then offer you a path on sand. Yep. Which one do you want to walk on? Yep. And which one do you want to stop, squat, and take the time to poop on? Right? It hurt. It legit.
It does hurt. So Dr. John Bradshaw refers to cats' paws as their sixth sense organ. Their paws are so sensitive. If you try to trim your cat's nails, a lot of them are like, oh, don't touch my paws. Like, just, you don't grab the paw without a little permission first. So we know their paws are incredibly sensitive. They have nerve endings. They've got hairs that are innervated. They've got whiskers that are innervated. So there's a lot going on there. Their paws are incredibly sensitive. So you want to be thinking of that when you set up.
This is a great test that I learned. And I want to share this with everybody. Take your litter and put it on a plate or on your table, just like a handful of it.
And clean litter, right?
Clean litter. Well, I mean, whatever. And then take your forearm and roll it back and forth on the litter. If you feel like your arm's being shredded, that's how your cat's feet feel.
Okay, that's a good test. I like that.
So the softer, the better.
Softer is better.
What else about litter should they know? How much?
Yeah, a couple inches is usually sufficient for most cats. It really, again, kind of depends on the cat. So you have the opportunity when you offer them multiple litters or litter boxes, to test different litters, test different depths of litter. And also you might find that your cat likes to urinate in one box and defecate in another, or they even might like one type of litter to urinate in and a totally different type of litter to defecate in. That's not unheard of. The really important thing is to scoop it daily, ideally twice a day. Research has shown that cats are not as concerned about the scent coming from the litter box. What they really don't like are obstacles in there. They don't like clumps. They don't want to step and poop. They don't want to dig and have to like roll over some urine clumps or anything like that. So scooping ideally multiple times a day is really what's most important to your cat.
And I'm seeing a lot of, what about my litter? What about my litter? And if your cat's using it, maybe if you think, well, they talked about soft and I'm using pine pellets, not soft. So, but they might love them. So instead of taking it away, add another litter box with something soft, and your cat's going to tell you.
They will tell you, usually they'll tell you that they don't like the pellet. So you can have cats that are compliant. They'll use, if you put it in a box, they will use it. That does not mean they like it. So I do recommend, if you are using something that is not soft clumping style litter, that you give your cat a choice and let them vote. And they will tell you. People love the breeze. I can't tell you how many cats I've rescued from euthanasia because they were given the breeze and they were peeing on the bed. Many. That product kills cats. It should say on the label, pine pellets should say on the label, this product kills cats, because so many cats are not given choices. They don't like the pellets. They start peeing on the bed. Those cats get sent to the shelter. And no one wants a cat with a litter box problem, but it's not a litter box problem. It's a human problem.
And for some people don't know, tell us what the breeze is.
It's a pellet system that has like a puppy pad underneath it. So the urine like drops through. It's got like a mesh kind of layer, and then you put the pellets on top and the urine goes through, and it's people love it. Apparently it's very easy to clean. I honestly, I don't understand why people get so like,
it's not hard to clean a litter box.
I like scooping the box. I'm kind of weird. It's like digging for gold. Like I like seeing what's in there. I want to know how many times did my cats poop today? Like, does the poop look normal? I want to know like how big are the pee clumps? I know like my cats have different size pee clumps, so I know who peed when and where. So I honestly don't get it. I've tried to understand it, but I just clean it. Just
and big mechanized litter boxes, like maybe I won't say brand names, but ones that might look like a cement mixer. Those are great for people, but they're not made for cats. I won't make a mechanized litter box because I don't think it's great for cats.
It's not great for cats.
And I am going to be writing a lot next month about this toilet training for a cat to actually use a human toilet. It's straight up, I'm just going to say it, it's cruel. It's cruel. Imagine if I asked you to walk across a tightrope naked and then squat and pee or poop. That's what you're asking them to do. It's awful. So there's a lot to know. And the other thing I'm going to say straight up, I'm so disappointed with litter that I made my own, which is called Dr. Bales One Source. You can get it from Chewy. And here's why. The litters that cats like the most are bentonite clay litters that are unscented and clumping, and silica litters that, same thing. So the problem is both of those things are strip mined.
Yep.
They are the only way that we get those litters. They're non-renewable. We have to remove topsoil, take it out, and never put it back. So I made a litter that fits that all of those things that we're talking about, what a cat wants. And it's made of the byproduct of cassava production for human food. What would have been thrown away, I turned it into cat litter, completely renewable. It's a plant. It smells like the earth. It clumps awesome. And it's all the things that are soft for cats on their paws. Yes, it's called Dr. Bales One Source. And right now, I just launched it. And so right now it might even be sold out on, you can ask your local pet store, please ask your local pet store, but you can get it on Chewy until it gets all over the place. And it's coming to Canada in a big way from Freedom Pet Distributors. So hang in there with Canada. But natural litters that are not bad for the environment, they all have their pluses and minuses. My biggest minus for my litter is that to make it appropriate for cats' paws, it might track, just like gravel doesn't track, but sand, you'll bring a little bit in on your feet. And I'm here to tell you, just clean it up. Don't hurt your cat. Just clean the tracking, like calm down, clean it up.
I have a Roomba and I have a tiny broom. They work, both of them work.
Yeah, just be like, so, but every litter, you have to like give something to get something.
Yeah.
And in my case, that was my choice because I do care about your cat just this much more than I care about you. Sorry. But so there are other natural litters. There's corn-based ones, there's wheat-based ones, there's like a million, right?
There are nowadays, there's every possible, like, I don't know, tofu, walnuts, etc. And, you know, the main thing I would say is look at how they're developing the product. Like, I trust you. Not all of these products would meet kind of your criteria as far as the softness and the clumpability and the smells that cats are going to relate to. So you really do want to be a smart shopper, look at how they develop their product. Did they work with any experts? How did they test the product? Did they have any cats actually use the litter to test it? And see if your cat likes it. Give them a choice as you introduce it. And like I said, they'll usually let you know if they care or if they don't care. And if they don't care, that's great.
You could look, if this was like a lot to take in about litter, you could Google my name, or you could Google Dr. Delgado, since I called you some other weird name in the beginning. You can Google our names and just put in whatever topic that you're looking for, and you'll probably get your answers. And we all share our knowledge basically from the same research. So I want you guys to look at the research and the science, or trusted people who are digesting it and giving it to you in human words and not like the blah, blah, blah words that we use. So what are your favorite places to send people if they want to read more about trusted research?
Yeah, I love the iCatCare website, icatcare.org. That's the letter I and then Cat Care. They're your British organization headed by some of like my favorite feline scientists, and very like, I think, Dr. Bales and I can both speak to this, like our only vested interest is in your cats being happy and you having a good relationship with your cat. Of course, Dr. Bales has some products and I'm going to put out a book, but like, whatever works for your cat. To me,
I never wanted to make products. This had nothing to.
But we need them.
I don't even want to do this, to be honest.
Need them.
And it's done nothing but cost me money. In case you're wondering if I'm making lots of money, no, I'm several $100,000 in debt. But why did I do it? Because no one was doing it, and a solution without a tool to enact the solution is pretty useless.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I decided to put my career and family and other things on the line and do that. And that was my choice. You can feel sorry for me if you want. It's okay.
I'm glad you made that choice.
And I think it's because of those kind of choices and that we are giving people tools and research in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
We are changing the world. And we're changing the world for your cat. I don't think anybody feels good the day that they drop their cat off at the shelter. I don't think anybody feels good about that. I don't think anybody feels good when they take their cat to the vet and say, if you can't solve this problem, I have to euthanize them today because my husband or my wife or my partner or whatever says that we can't.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody feels good about that. So for the human spirit and for cats, look at the research, the facts, don't get caught up in the marketing. And let's figure out how to change the world for cats for the better in a way that it's easy, you can do it, you can afford it, and it's actually going to save you money because your cat's not going to get sick. Cats get sick, right? But you're going to bring that frequency of sickness way down if you take care of their little kitty spirits.
Love that. Take care of the little kitty spirits.
Is there anything you want to add? Because I get I get so excited, I forget to shut up.
No, I know. I feel like I'm in the same zone. So, it's like always more fun to speak with another person because we've bounced a lot of ideas off each other. And I always get kind of tidbits from you like, oh yeah, I like how she said that. So, it's, and it's fun to chat about cats, right?
So I talked with Base Paws earlier today, who, by the way, can we give it up for Base Paws and how much they invest money, like legit money for you guys to get this information for free. They are doing amazing things for cats, for cat people, getting the information out, and also all the DNA work that they're doing is
amazing. Cool.
It's opening science up in ways that are like mind-boggling. So this is like some serious cutting edge stuff happening right here.
It is. And people can participate in the science, right? That's like the coolest thing is being able to contribute to the projects that they're doing, like related to kidney disease and dental disease, are really going to move the needle as far as improving our cat's health and understanding some of the genetic connections. So it's great.
It's amazing. And sometimes stuff that, science evolves. So we thought it was this, but oh my gosh, we just learned that it's that. And it takes companies like Base Paws to do it. But I talked with them earlier. If you guys would like to hear from Dr. Delgado and me more often, and maybe a weekly, like, hey, let's talk about cat behavior. Let us know and let Base Paws know that you value the resource so that they'll keep bringing you more. They don't want to give you what you don't want. They want to give you what you want. So if you have topics you want to talk about or something that you loved, just like Instagram Base Paws, or just put below where you signed up for this. They're listening to you. They care. They want to know what you want to know. So what are we going to, what's your like favorite takeaway for everybody who's watching today?
I've got to come up with one message. I think the most important message is respecting that your cat is not a small human, and that they have wants and needs of their own that have nothing to do with you, and that your goal is to discover what makes them happy. That was like 8 things in one sentence.
That's okay. No, but that's the whole thing, right? And don't take it personally. It's not you. You're a human. They're a cat.
Yeah.
And the way that you can most love your cat is not treat them like they're your baby. We talked about how that doesn't work. You want to treat them like they are the best, most valuable cat in the world and give them what a cat needs. So that's what we're going to keep talking about. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. We went over.
We did. Sorry.
We just can't stop. So we will put up some handouts and other stuff, and hopefully we're going to see all of you again really soon. And take the handouts or the science and the recommendations. Make sure that you understand it before you share it, because you don't want to share wrong things. And then be the disciples that go out into the world and help people to understand what really matters, and to stop these intense discussions about stuff that isn't changing things. It's just selling things.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Base Paws. Thank you, Dr. Delgado.
Thanks, Dr. Bales.